Greetings. I was just sitting here at the kitchen table today working on a little project with a tarot deck that I haven't really done much of anything with since last Samhain a year ago, when I was asked to do a fundraiser for a local cat rescue group, and I came across this deck. It's called the Cat's Eye Tarot, and I got it just as a really of a gimmick for people who maybe didn't like tarot but maybe liked cats, so I thought I could attract them with that, cute pictures of cats. And I found that they really read really beautifully. A lot of them read really beautifully. There's the Seven of Cups. You know, the Magician. There's lots of good imagery to pull from when you're doing a reading. And some of the imagery is downright kind of sad. It's really poignant, you know. It's really very poignant. I really enjoyed reading from it. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. But I want to say that the one thing that gave me difficulty, which is the thing that gives a lot of us difficulty all the time when we read a new deck particularly, are the court cards. So I really want to address the court cards. I remember sitting there, and when I was doing the readings, I was doing, I think, a new one every 15 minutes. I did like something like 10 readings or so, maybe 12, during the course of the evening. I might have done 20-minute readings. They were pretty long. It was a pretty long haul. And I remember, especially if somebody would pick the Cat Tarot, I would find myself thinking, oh, when I was shuffling, please no court cards, please no court cards, which is a terrible way to be you don't want to be a tarot reader and admit to doing that. So that's not a good thing. But the court cards just weren't doing it for me. And I admit that even when I was doing the Wildwood Tarot, when I first started reading the Wildwood Tarot, and even sometimes now if I've been away for any given time, given amount of time, the court cards in that one are difficult too. Some of the images, you will get something just like an animal of some kind, an otter. Well, you can look at the, you know, the description, what the author has in mind for the meaning for the card, but sometimes I have trouble relating what the author has in mind with the card meaning and the actual animal. I've tried to research some of the animals to see what trace of the animal makes the person who wrote the deck think in those terms. And it's a little hard, it's a little difficult. So I want to say today, I decided I was going to get out this deck and work with it because I have the idea that I want to take this deck in the beginning of next month. I'm going to be doing some readings for a psychic fair, like I did in the spring, where I did about a dozen readings that day too, and they're like short readings, so I have to be really on my toes. I can't think too much. I have to be have my thoughts come to me pretty fast. So I thought I would get out this deck and work with it and come up with a way to get over this block I have with the court cards in this deck. And I think I've kind of come across a little something that helps me. I want to say, excuse me just a minute. Bayan, come over here. The banging of the bells that you hear is my young golden retriever who's 9 months old, and he is insisting that he's going to go in the yard with Joe. I have a group of bells hanging on the front door, and he's pretty intelligent that when he wants to go, he goes over and rings the bells to give our attention. But the problem with him is he wants to ring the bell like constantly. He would just like to go out all the time. You need to stay here. You need to stay here. There's nothing you can do out there with Joe. Okay, so anyway, I can't really keep him away from the bells. And I don't want to, because that's really a cute way of telling us he wants out. I mean, it's helpful. We can hear him from all over the house when he wants to go out. Anyway, I sidetracked. I came across a little exercise that I wanted to share with you. This is not unique to me. I am not the first person to think of this, but this is the first time I've used it. And I'm going to say why. What I have done is I pulled all of the court cards out of the deck. Okay, this is the deck minus the court cards. And I have those 16 cards laying out here on my kitchen table, and I'm going to turn the camera around and show you how I have them laid out. I have them laid out in a way that they are separate from the deck. And this is a new thing to me. I have said in the past when I've dealt in the past with trying to learn the deck, have been very stubborn in wanting to be able to read the card, how it relates to the other cards in a spread of at least 3 cards. I don't do much single card pulls to learn cards, where I think a lot of people do. Because I think, just pulling a card, here we have the 8 of Wands. This is one of those cards I think is so beautiful. Here we have a mother cat taking her kittens out of a burning building. Where, of course, that gives us an idea right away what we want to say about the card. But if I put it with another card, if I put it beside a couple other cards, the meaning can change. The meaning can change. Or it can develop, or it can take on another layer, right? It can take another layer. So that's the way I normally learn to read cards. I usually normally practice reading with 3 cards at a time, minimal, 3 to 5. But that wasn't helping me with the court cards, because the court cards in so many decks do not have much imagery on them. They're rather plain compared to the other cards in the deck. At least that's what's been my experience. Here we have the World card. The World card has lots of symbols in it. Okay? The cat is up a tree, there's a snake, there's an apple, there's a what is that in the sky? A fish. Looks like a fish. I don't know what it is. Oh, here's the fish. There's spider, there's a mouse, there's the crescent moon, there's a star, there's a, there's so many things going on. A snake, if I didn't say. What is the position of the tail? What is he looking at? This tells me a whole lot of things, right? If I pick up this card, this is one of the court cards. It's a cat sitting on a chair. I think it's a chair. That's it. A cat sitting on a chair. Do you see what I'm talking about? Okay. But I was thinking, I put these cards out in front of me today, and I got my husband in here with me, and we were looking at the cards and thinking, we had so many cats come into this house over the years, since we've been married, into this house and our other homes. We've saved litters of kittens. We've saved rescue kittens. We've done all kinds of things. Rescued cats. We've had cats take up residence in our yard. And we've learned a lot about cats. So I thought, let's put on our thinking caps and look at these cards and see what comes to our mind about what's the author's intent with these cards. Just like I do if I'm learning another kind of a deck with the court cards, I try to, like even with the Rider-Waite, when I do the Rider-Waite, I try to think of a person. Each of the court cards reminds me of a person that I know that has some of the characteristics or a lot of the characteristics of the person in the court card. So I know that it could be a person or it could be somebody displaying those kind of traits or situations, that it reminds me of when I think of that person. Okay? So that's what I was going to do today. And my husband and I, we got a little bit, it really helped, because I want to say the very first thing that struck my eye, was the row of the little black kitties. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to turn this around real quick and just show you what I was looking at. Then I'll come back and talk about a little bit about some of the cards. I won't go through each card, because if you're not interested in the cat tarot, this isn't going to help you. But I think some of this, what I'm going to talk about, will help you no matter what kind of a deck you are trying to familiarize yourself with. Okay, so let me grab the camera. Okay, as you can see here, I have dealt out, I hope you can see here, I have the 16 cards, court cards in front of me on the table. And I have the top row is the Page of Swords, the Knight of Swords, the Queen of Swords, the King of Swords. In the second row, the same thing, Page of Wands, Knight of Wands, Queen of Wands, King of Wands. The third row, Page of Cups, Knight of Cups, Queen of Cups, King of Cups. And the bottom row, Page of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles, and King of Pentacles. And it's obvious right away when you look at them in this position that the author chose to use different cats, different types of cats, for different suits. In the top row, we have kind of a Siamese cat, I believe it is, representing the suit of swords, which is kind of interesting because a Siamese cat is really known for its chattiness. They talk. If you've ever known anybody, I've never had one myself. My aunt had one, and I know other people have had them, and they really are very verbal. They vocalize very, they don't speak English, I don't think, but they do, you know, verbalize exactly what they're feeling to you all the time. The second row here is the Page of Wands. For the suit of Wands, he's using like an orange tabby here, which are very lovable cats. My daughter has one. It was one of our rescued kittens that she has homed. We used to have one years ago, Jimmy. Oh, he was such a sweet, everybody loved him kind of a cat. They're very intelligent, very adventurous cats. And that's been pretty good for the suit of Wands to represent that. And then, I might be a little close here. Then we have, in the next row, this is the row I was talking about, caught my attention. Here's these little tuxedo cats. We have the Page of Cups, the Knight of Cups, Queen of Cups, King of Cups, all by this little black and white tuxedo cat. And then finally we have for the Pentacles, all of them in a row. They're not exactly the same breed, but they're all very, it's distinct, they're distinctly farm cats. Cats that are from a barn, growing, you know, living on a farm. So they're working cats, cats that have some jobs. Okay, so when I did this, the first thing, before I turn the camera, I won't keep it here entirely because I want to hold up the things for you, but I want you to see, it wasn't until I put these cards beside each other that I saw the subtle differences. I want to say, what is the differences in these cards? Just talk about posturing. Let's not talk about what the cards mean, but let's just talk about what the cards are what they're doing, the cats are doing in the cards. Here in the Siamese kitties, we have the suit of swords. We have a cat here perched up on the edge of it's supposed to be the back of like an Adirondack chair. It looks like a fence. It could be a fence, but I think it's supposed to be a chair because of the way the wood is bent. I'll show you later. Then we have a cat who's really, I'll show you later too, but he's got his tail up and he's talking. He's one of these talking, going on and on cats. We have the Queen of Swords, who doesn't appear to be doing much of anything, just sitting there, but she looks pretty regal. She looks pretty, her gaze is pretty intent, looking back at you from the card. And then we have the King of Swords, that little Siamese, not so little, kind of a little heavier, going out a cat door. Apparently going out the cat door. Okay, so that's the little subtle differences between them. They're all the same kind of cat. They are actually, in fact, doing something. When I was saying they weren't doing much, if you just look at the card by itself, like for instance, if I just pick up the Queen of Swords by herself, if I would lay out a spread and I would get the Queen of Swords, I don't really have anything to compare with it. It's just a cat sitting there looking at me. But if I look at the Queen of Swords in relation to the Page, the Knight, and the King of Swords, I see a difference right away. Ha! Now we're getting to my strategy. Okay. The next row, we have the Page of Wands, Knight of Wands, Queen of Wands, King of Wands, this beautiful little orange tabby. And what's the difference? Well, this cattie's looking up. He's looking up at a leaf, sitting on some leaves on the ground, looking up at a leaf. This kitty's up a tree. This kitty's standing on the leaves, kind of in a playful kind of pose. And there's the King of Wands just kind of snoozing. So if we see him again, if I were just going to pick up the King of Wands, it's just a snoozing cat, which is something very familiar if you have a cat. You see the cat snoozing. It doesn't mean much to you if you just pick it up in the spread. But when I laid it down here with the page, the knight, and the queen, I all at once start to see something. He's the only one with his eyes closed. He's the only one that is not interacting with anything around him, even with his gaze. Like this guy's up a tree. He's not really interacting, but he is up a tree, which tells us a lot about that kitty. Okay, the row of kitties that got my attention first and got my husband's attention first was the little tuxedo kitties here, and that is because of a cat that we had live in our yard. He came to live in our yard and lived there over years. I want to say maybe 6 years or so. And for part of that time, we brought him inside, and he lived inside. He never came to us as a kitty. He was never a little kitty. But he was showed behaviors that we see here, and I'm going to talk to you about that when I do turn the camera around so you can see them a little clearer. But I want to talk to you about it. But this was the first one that really, when I look at them in a row, and I saw Mario, here he is sitting on a chair, a young cat sitting on the couch. And here we have a young cat, rubbing on the furniture. Here we have a kitty, just snuggled down on the sofa, and then we have a nice fat cat. This is again what I'm saying. See, if I would just show you this cat, if I just picked that up and showed you that, if that was a cat that I got in the spread, I would say, what in the world am I going to tell you about that card? What in the world am I going to tell you about that card? This is a very common posture, apparently, for cats. They're not doing anything. But here when you see them in a row, I see a big difference, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. One more I want to show you again. Down on the bottom, the same thing. Page of Pentacles is a kitten, young kitten, and there's some mice in the barn. Sorry about the glare. And then we have the Knight of Pentacles. These are little barn cats. Little barn cats. Queen of Pentacles. And she's the one that caught my eye first because she's this little tabby. A calico. She's a little calico kitty. And I see, when going across here, they're all like little tabby mixes or something, which is a very common cat we see around the barn. The markings on this one reminds us of one that comes in the yard sometimes. This one has a lot of calico on her. She reminds us of a lot of the mother cats that we've seen. Typical of the mother of the calico, you see typically of female cats, not males. And then we see just this man. You see this? Doesn't mean much of anything, right? But again, seeing them in a row like this, I'm able to see differences. Pardon that. Sorry about that. I hope that didn't mess up the recording. I bumped the camera. I hope we can see that we're going to see differences in the suit. We're also going to look at what is the difference between the Page of Swords, the Page of Wands, the Page of Cups, and the Page of Pentacles. Again, see, what do we see the differences? There has to be a difference, right? There has to be a difference between the King of Swords, the King of Wands, the King of Cups, and the King of Pentacles. And that's what we're going to look at. Okay, let me turn the camera around. Okay, I promised you that I was going to talk first about the little black and white kitty, the little tuxedo kitty, because that's what we had. And here we see the little page of cups. And compared to the other, first I want to compare him to the other pages to show you how I did this exercise. The Page of Swords was maybe the easiest one to do because he's in a situation that you can see his posture very well. And we know swords are about, information or knowledge or whatever. And pages have to do with a situation, or there's some kind of a message or immaturity or whatever. And immaturity, we see all of the pages in this deck are represented by kittens. Oh, very much. And this kitten, as like I said, is on the back of a chair. The reason I said it's a chair is these are angled in like it's a Adirondack chair rather than a fence. But it could be just as easily a fence. He's perched up, and we've seen young kittens do this all the time, where they have to make some kind of a decision. There's a decision to be made, and they're looking at one side, looking at the other, and before he can take the leap to one side of the chair or the other, down on the chair, around to the back, excuse me, or one side of the fence or the other, he's got to think. And so this is what this card is telling us very clearly, to actually take some time and think before you take the leap. And this is a posture that we see a lot of times in young cats. I have those two young, they're a year old now, they're over a year old, about a year and a half old now. We call them the Katzenjammer kids, the two black, fluffy kittens that we adopted. You see them still, like they're gonna go, they're perched, they're ready to take a jump, and where are they gonna jump? They're jumping into the ceiling fan? Like, really? Do you think that's a good idea to jump into a ceiling fan? Do you really think that's a good idea to try to walk across what you're trying to walk across? Young cats are always doing that. So this was a given. This is really easy to notice the difference of. Okay, so we can see that. We see in the wands, this cat, the Page of Wands, he's sitting on all the leaves, but you can see he's watching the one coming down. He's trying to grab it. He wants the attention. He's trying to grab the attention, grabbing the glory. He likes to be the center of attention. He's not so interested in anything else that's going on, other than he's got his attention on this leaf. Okay, so he's not, as this cat was really trying to take some time to think about, am I safe on this ledge or not? This cat is just focused. It doesn't matter. He's just going to go for it. He's going to jump up and grab the leaf as soon as he can. And as soon as he gets that leaf, he's going to want another one. He's not interested in the ones laying on the ground. Okay. The Page of Pentacles, this little barn cat, he's got his eye on the prize. He's got his eye on the little mice. And I think he knows that he needs to practice before he can learn how to really catch mice, which is probably going to be his job when he gets bigger. Most barn cats, that's why they're in the barn. And he's going to have to learn some tricks before he is able to actually catch the mice, which in this picture apparently are almost as big as he is. So it's going to be a little while before he's ready. So he still has some learning to do. He still has some growing to do. He still has some trust to do. Okay, so when we lay them out, these pages in front of us in the line, we see very clearly that there are and as they relate to the suit, they're very different indeed. We get to the Page of Cups. We never had little Mario at this stage. But we know these little kittens. This is everybody's idea of a kitten, right? When they get a kitten, they hope it's just kind. Because this is the kind of kitten who's going to trust in you, who's going to trust in whoever comes to sit down on that couch, and he's going to curl up in their lap, right? He's going to get petted. He's going to get some love and give some love back. And that's what we want a good, healthy kitten to do. If a kitten is hiding under the cupboard, or a kitten is afraid, clinging on to you and scratching you or whatever, those aren't the kittens that get the homes. These are the ones that get the homes, the ones that sit in. So he's very involved in learning to judge people. He's going to be a good judge of people, and people are going to be a good judge of him. So he's going to be relating. This is the kind of cat. I have some of these cats where I don't even have to share. They grow into cats, so you don't even have to share words with them. You can just give them a gesture across the room and they'll come to you. You don't have to even speak. So they have a great empathic, a good intuition, and they have great empathic sense. Okay. So when I look at it that way, and I'm identifying, okay, which of these kittens, I couldn't help but to look across the row at the little black and white tuxedo kittens, because little Mario lived in our yard like I said, for maybe 6 years, maybe longer. I'm not sure. He came to us as a young cat. He came to us, he was not a kitten at this stage. He was more at this stage, a young, like a teenager. And this is the way he acted with me. He would never leave. We didn't feed him for a while. He would not leave the yard. But he was in the yard, and eventually I wanted to make sure, I wanted to see if he was neutered. I realized he didn't really seem to belong to anybody, and I wanted to make sure he was neutered. So we did feed him, started feeding him like he was ever going to go anywhere. He wouldn't go anywhere if I hadn't fed him. But so he became friendly with us, and we could pet him. And this is what he used to do when I would go outside to see him. He would just run and just, you know, back and forth, rubbing himself on my leg. You see cats doing this with furniture. This is their way of saying, you belong to me. You belong to me. But what happens is with these same kittens that do this, oftentimes you see them doing this. Oftentimes you see that as soon as somebody else comes along, they hide, they run. Or you go to pet him, or just, you know, he's rubbing on my leg and I reach down to go to pet him and he runs. He gives us mixed messages all the time, and that's what this card is about. There's maybe emotional swings. Do you love me or you don't love me? Come on, Mario, what's it with you? What's with you? Anyway, we were able to catch Mario, and we were able to take him and have him neutered. And we kept him in the yard a while, and then it got to be, let him stay out in the yard, and then it got really cold and rainy. One winter was very cold, and I was so worried about him. He had gone, we have an outdoor kitchen, and he had gone into the outdoor kitchen and found shelter in the outdoor kitchen. And we had, my husband put a little blanket on one of the chairs that are out in the kitchen, and he would sleep up on that little kitchen. It was a little bar stool, actually. He would sleep on that under the roof and his little blanket, and we kept giving him food and water, but that's pretty much where he lived. And then he would go out and hunt and do some hunting and things. And but it got so cold and wet one winter that we couldn't stand it, and I brought him in the house, and he turned into this cat. He turned into this cat. This is a cat who really just had affection for me. Okay, really had affection for me. Really had affection for my husband. I have pictures I took with this cat who was laying beside me so tight up against me he almost dissolved into my sweatshirt, or into my sweater. He just, if he could have gone inside me, he would have, you know, on my side. He wanted to be so close. And a little crack. But it's, again, when any stranger came, he would hide. My daughter would come to the house, daughters who came all the time, he would hide. Okay. So again, he was giving those mixed messages again, but this time it became really weird to me that this was not a cat that, see, I had taken him in, I thought, I'm going to give him a home. And it became very clear to me, I can't save this cat. He's never going to be able to go with somebody else. He was a wild cat as far as other people were concerned. He was staying only for me and for my husband. But even with my husband, he wasn't that as terribly attached as he was me. So he just could not, it wasn't a cat that was going to be able to be saved and given to somebody else. So he lived in there for quite a long time in the yard. He even had some medical issues. We spent quite a lot of money on him at the vet. But he just really wanted to be outside. He just wanted to be outside more than anything. And he was supposed to go on a prescription diet, and he didn't want to go on the prescription diet, so he went out and he wouldn't eat that food. We continued to give him the other food, which wasn't good for him. And one day he eventually just disappeared, which I don't think was good. I don't think there was anything good about that. So he never made it to this stage. He never made it to this stage. This is the stage of a King of Cups. This is a stage where the cat is in his cups, so to speak. He can manage things without controlling. He can be around people. When he wants to be, he doesn't have any issue. If he wants to have affection, he's good with it. He can lay there and take the petting. When he doesn't want to take the affection, he can stand up and walk away. He doesn't have to hide. He doesn't have to run and hide and worry. He's confident. He's confident. the little thing, the little remark on the in the book, in the little white book says, "Purr, and the whole world purrs with you." And I think, oh, that would have been wonderful. This would have been Mario. He could have lived a really long, long life, I think. But you can't save, again, you cannot save everyone. And that is kind of the message of this card. You know? Sometimes, you know, if you're going to be somebody who tries to take care of everybody all the time and do things for other people, there's going to be people that no matter what you do, it's not going to help. And that's, no matter what we did with Mario, it was not going to help. It was not going to help him. Not going to save him. Okay, so that opened the door, you see, to the other suits. I started to see the other suits, and I didn't mean to go through all of these cards with you. I just found it so interesting. Just like I was going across, when I started going across, I all of a sudden opened up my eyes and I really started to see the differences. I started to see what is different between the queen and the queens. What is different between the kings. Right? Going back to the kings, we had the King of Swords in the beginning. The King of Swords reminds us of a lot of cats, people that have cats. Where the King of Swords, he wants to come and go as he pleases. You know, I had a cat, Chuck, our first cat, that we had, and no matter what side of the door he was on, he was a cat that was able to go in and out of the house. We lived in the woods when we had him down back in Pennsylvania. We lived, and so he went in and out of the house all day. At nighttime, I kept him in, but he went in and out. Here, I have some friends who do that with cats here, and we have a problem in California with a lot of feral cat population, a lot of disease that, you know, we don't have freezing temperatures where we live, so things do not die off in the winter. Disease does not stop. So the feral cats can be quite ill. And vets tell you right away, if you want to keep your cat healthy, keep your cat inside. So most of the people have their cats inside here, good pet owners, responsible pet owners, or let them out in very limited areas outside. Don't let them just roam freely. But I admit I have some people that I know who try to let their cats go roaming as they will out in the daytime and try to bring them in at night, think they're going to be safe, who end up feeding a lot of coyotes. And if they think they're fooling the coyotes by only letting the cats out at night, out in the daytime, they're crazy. The coyotes here are so used to the people around here and so, you know, determined and brave to just, they're nonplussed at all by people. They'll just walk right up your driveway, come up your walk with the mailman and eat your cat off the porch in the middle of the day. You know, they don't have any fear of people anymore. So that's kind of foolhardy to think that you're going to be able to let your cat come and go. But I remember Chuck coming and going in the door, and it didn't matter if he was inside, he wanted out. If he was outside, he wanted in. If he was in the bedroom, he wanted out of the bedroom. If he was outside the bedroom, he wanted in. It didn't matter what kind of a door it was. It didn't matter what kind of a window it was. He wanted to be on the other side. Okay? This kind of a cat is very, you know, he causes his owners a lot of grief with this, but he doesn't care. He doesn't really care about that, does he? People worry. He has people, why am I dark? All of a sudden I got really dark. I don't know if I can fix that or not. I don't think I can. I'm sorry. I think it's, the sun is moving. I think that's the deal. Anyway, he's, that intellectual cat, if it was a King of Swords in the Rider-Waite deck, it would be the intellectual king who just thinks of him, you know, he's really involved in his thoughts and his own business and doesn't really give a lot of emotion. This cat doesn't really worry that you're going to worry about him if you know, he doesn't know. You're trying to keep him safe by, please come back, please don't wander. He doesn't get that. He doesn't get that. He's trying to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. He's got his own ideas. Okay, we see the difference reading that. And here's the King of Wands. The King of Wands, we see, I showed you him before, who has his eyes closed. The King of Wands, the idea that he has his eyes closed, he's the only one in the whole bunch, in the whole court, who has his eyes closed, by the way. The rest of them are looking at something or gazing back at the reader, at me. He has his eyes closed because he's focusing on something that's not in front of him. He's either remembering something, dreaming about something that happened to him before, or he's maybe thinking about what he might do later. He's got his mind on something distant to where he is. He also is really aloof. It's represented that his eyes are closed to you. And we all know these kind of cats who will lay there and purr and purr and purr. And you go and you talk to them and you're petting them, and they just keep your eyes closed. They're not so in tune with you. The difference between if I go up to some of my other cats and I start to speak to them, their eyes are on me all of a sudden. They focus on me. They're in tune with me. We have a back and forth relationship. Where this cat, he wants to be worshipped. He's one of those cats who wants to be worshipped. Okay? We already talked about the King of Cups. How about the King of Pentacles? The King of Pentacles, the Pentacles representing the barn cats, the King of Pentacles is all about, you know, he's the one who this kitty's going to learn from. This kitty wants to grow up to be this one. He knows he knows how to catch the mice. He knows how to, you know, take care of his business. He knows his job, and he knows what his job is. He knows what his relationship is with the people that live there. He knows where his territory is. He knows his, you know, he's in charge of what he's in charge of the barn. He takes it very seriously. He takes it very seriously. Okay. I'm apparently going through all these cards. I don't mean to, but I think you get the realization what I'm trying to get to you, what I'm trying to explain to you. By taking these cards out of their element, out of the deck, and letting them sit beside each other only, and looking at how they relate to each other, seeing them in a row. Oh, it opened up my eyes. And I think I'm going to do this with the other decks and see how that works. I'm going to do that a little later, maybe with the, another time. Maybe I'll do the exercise with another deck with you another time to see how it works. But I'd be curious to see if it works for you. And again, this is not a new idea on why I'm thinking. It's just that, to me, it just seems so revealing. It seems so revealing to look at these cats, how they're related to each other, especially when we see them in the suit, or when we see them by hierarchy. Okay, so now I think I'm going to leave them out here for a few days. I'm going to leave this deck, these court cards out here for a few days, give a few more thought to it. Then I'm going to put them in and shuffle real good, and hopefully they will come up in some of my 3-card spreads. Then I'm going to be able to use them and see how they read. See if it reads a little easier for me, because I think it should. You know, I just want to caution you one more thing about when you get a new deck of cards. Really, really, I've said it before, but really try to get to know the deck and its intent. Why do you have the deck? There's a reason for the deck other than just the pretty pictures. They really have some interesting, you know, there's some really interesting insights that the authors have put into these, you know, spend some time thinking. Some of them I think don't. I think some of them just have a stupid picture. Like there's a lot of I think the reason I like this card, and I mentioned it when I bought these decks, I had asked Arwen to recommend a good cat deck to me, because there's so many. I went to look on Amazon and there were so many different decks, and I could see right away when she recommended this one the difference, because some of the other animal decks, it's people with cat heads on top of them, which it doesn't do anything for me. This is actually doing a thing that a cat does. You wouldn't have a person perched on the back of a chair like this, ready to jump off the. Like it wouldn't be the same thing. So these are actually doing cat jobs. They're doing cat jobs. Then you can see them in context. You can see what the meaning is behind them. Okay, that's all. I just talked way too much. Anyway, again, if you're trying to learn a new deck and it's not working for you, before you give up on the new deck, use a different tactic. Come about it from a completely different way, and that's what I tried to do today, and it worked for me today. Completely different tactic. Okay, that's all. Thanks for watching. As always, I send you blessings.